As you know, the Trump transition team is very strongly making the argument that when he was a U.S. attorney, Jeff Sessions prosecuted and sought the death penalty successfully for a member of the Klan, that he supported the renewal of the Voting Rights Act. What are your concerns?
Well, I think there are several. First of all, this is a very divided country. It was a very divisive election. Donald Trump, in the aftermath, promised to bring the country together, and putting forth Jeff Sessions, who's a very extreme right-wing conservative, who threatens perhaps to turn back the clock, to take the country backward on progress on civil rights, is highly problematic. His statements from 30 years ago trouble a great number of people. Many of us are more concerned about his record on issues today. He's someone who has not supported the reconstitution of the Voting Rights Act in the aftermath of it being decimated by the Supreme Court. He's consistently stood in the way of bipartisan efforts to fix the effort to make sure that every American, regardless of race or gender or ethnicity, can participate in the democratic process. Jeff Sessions is someone who continues to support the divisive symbol of the Confederate flag. In the aftermath of what took place in Charleston with that tragic shooting in Mother Emanuel Church, he stood by the notion of keeping the flag up. He's someone who supports the war on drugs. This is a failed war that has led to America being the country that incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. So he stands by mass incarceration in the prison industrial complex. On issue after issue, he's the wrong person to move the country forward, and that's why we're opposed to his nomination.
Congressman, the fact that Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey is testifying against Jeff Sessions, we believe this is the first time a sitting U.S. Senator has ever testified against a fellow sitting U.S. Senator. Does that carry extra weight? Does that mean more than the opposition to Sessions by the NAACP and Congressman John Lewis? Or do you view it as just politics?
Well, it's certainly not politics, it's principle. And when you have a civil rights icon, for instance, like John Lewis, who's going to testify in opposition to this nomination, and certainly a colleague like Cory Booker, who has a great bipartisan history in his short time in the Senate, it says that we are extremely concerned, people of principle, with this nomination. We understand that a president should have the prerogative of putting forth a cabinet nomination, and that cabinet nomination being given the benefit of the doubt. But we're in a particularly interesting situation, a particularly interesting time. We're very divided on issues of the police and the community relationship. There's been bipartisan work done to try to reform our criminal justice system. Cory Booker has worked on that. Jeff Sessions has been in opposition. And so I think Senator Booker has made the decision that the right thing to do at this particular point in time is to stand in opposition to this nomination, and I fully support him in that decision.
Congressman, what's wrong with the argument, and we've heard it repeatedly over the past few days, give the senator a chance. He's been on the Judiciary Committee for so long. Let him testify, ask all the tough questions, and hear what he has to say today, and then make up your mind whether or not he's qualified to be Attorney General of the United States. What do you say to that argument?
Well, it's very interesting that the people who are making that argument refused to give President Obama a chance. Many of them declared war on Barack Obama on day one in the midst of two failed wars and the worst economy since the Great Depression. And as recently as last year, when the president, his constitutional prerogative, when there's a vacancy in the Supreme Court, nominated someone who was very qualified, and they wouldn't even give him a hearing. And so to lecture us on presidential etiquette as it relates to any nomination is outrageous. And we'll decide what's appropriate on behalf of the American people. Now, that's not to say people aren't closely evaluating his testimony over the next few days. People can change, but Jeff Sessions has a long record and history of standing in opposition to equality and progress and tolerance, and that's highly problematic.
Congressman Jeffries of New York. Congressman, thanks very much.